What is going on, golf fans, and welcome back to another episode of Fairways and Dreams. I'm your host, Jeff Hartman, on this Tuesday podcast, which is where I get to talk about whatever I feel like talking about in the game of golf. And in this case, I want to talk about pace of play issues in the game of golf, not just at the professional level, which is an issue, but also at the amateur or recreational level as well. We're also going to dive into the latest news in the game of golf. And I do have to update my own swing because at the very end of the show, I always like to talk about my own golf game. I got out and actually hit some golf balls this past weekend. It wasn't bad. That's all I'm going to say. But let's start off with the topic at hand. And that is there an answer to golf's pace of play issues? That's the question. And this is a this is a safe space. Now let's keep that in mind. But is there an answer to these issues? We know these issues exist. They've existed for a long time, both on the PGA Tour as well as recreationally. And this stems from Matt Fitzpatrick on Sunday at the Valspar Championship, which he won, mind you. He's playing great golf. He finished second at the Players Championship and now won the Valspar. He actually called out his playing partner to rules officials saying they're taking way too long. And at one point, he played out of order based on the fact that his playing partner was just taking forever. He spoke openly about this after his round and said that you're trying to be in a rhythm. You're trying to get into a rhythm. He's trying to win a golf tournament. It's difficult. And that made me think to myself, well, we've all been there before. We've all been there where you go out on the golf course and you have a great first few holes and you're in a groove. And then all of a sudden you come to that one hole. Maybe it's a par five where everyone feels like they can get there in two. And so they wait. Maybe it's a par three that's a little bit more challenging and some people are having to hit extra golf balls. It doesn't matter. It always comes down to there's that hole which comes that your whole game comes to a screeching halt. And how do you adjust? Well, I guess the question is maybe there doesn't have to be a screeching halt. Maybe the pace of play issue is something that can be resolved, rectified, and figured out. But this problem is not just on the PGA Tour. This is also a problem with recreational golf. Let's take a look at some of the basic numbers. The average PGA Tour round is anywhere between 4.5 to 5 hours in length. So the next time you're complaining about the pace of play at your own Muni course, understand that on the PGA Tour, it takes them a long time. And there's been times where it's taken over 5 hours. Now, a couple things to remember. These are professionals. They're playing from the tips. We're talking about well over 7,000 yards, and they are walking. And so that means that when you're playing a championship level course, it's going to take you longer. It's going to take you longer to get to your golf ball. It's going to take you longer on these huge undulating greens to read the greens and to make sure you're making the best decisions because you're a professional. That doesn't mean that they should just be given the free will to just take their sweet old time. I'm not saying that. But at the recreational level, that it could take anywhere. This is obviously an average range of 3.5 to 5 hours. A lot depends on how many people are you playing with. Are you in a twosome, are you in a foursome, or are you single? It doesn't matter. It does matter. Are you walking or are you riding? Now, they actually did some basic numbers, and I found this on a couple different websites. One was if you were walking 18 holes, the course was relatively clear, and you have no stoppages. If you're by yourself, they said you could play a round of golf in 3 hours, walking by yourself. And also, that means that you got to be a pretty average to above average golfer because that means you're not having to look for golf balls a lot. It's kind of just tee to fairway or around there. You're finding your golf ball, you're keeping it in play. But they said that if you were riding by yourself, so you're a single, course is relatively clear, there's no stoppages, that if you're playing 18 holes, again, above average golfer, that you should be able to play in 2 to 2.5 hours, 18 holes. So when you add in that the course is often crowded, when you add in that you might be playing with 3 other people, that's when the round of golf can get to 3.5 to 5 hours. So how do you fix it? And is there a fix? That's the ultimate question. Everyone thinks they know what the answer is, but is there truly a fix to this problem? Is it a shrinking the game problem for a recreational golfer? Meaning, are there too many people golfing? Are there so many people out there that ultimately that it's just too crowded? Maybe. I think there are some things that you could do. And let's start with the pro level. PGA Tour, I'm not about to say that they should do something like ban aim point. If you've ever seen aim point, this is where, Keegan Bradley does it, Victor Hovland does. A lot of golfers do this now, and that's where they find different points during the putt. They straddle their line, they put their fingers up. If it's 2 fingers, 3 fingers, 1 finger, it's all based on the amount of break that's going to be in the putt. And they use their feet to kind of give them a feel for whether it's a right to left to right breaking putt. It does take a longer time than someone that maybe walks around their putt, takes a look, lines it up, and goes. I'm not about to say that aim points should be banned. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm suggesting, though, is that if a player is going to be doing aim point, they still need to keep pace with the tournament, with their playing partners. I think that the PGA Tour, putting someone on the clock in theory makes sense. And you're like, oh, they've been put on the clock. That means that if they continue to play at this pace, they could be penalized for it. I think it's got to be stricter than that. I think that they get one warning, and after that one warning, then you start having strokes added to your score. There has to be something to keep the pace of play. Some tournaments have done a good job with this, especially on holes that it's a drivable par 4, where what they'll do is when a group tees off, they then go to their golf balls. They're typically on or around the green. When they all get on the putting surface, they then step off the green and allow the following group to hit their tee shots. They then finish out as that group is approaching their shots. I'm not saying that's the perfect answer, but it's at least something. It's a good way for the PGA Tour to try to keep things up to speed and keep things moving. We understand it's going to take longer, but if the PGA Tour is destined to make rounds of golf be a little bit more timely, they have to take it more serious. I will say this, though. I can only speak for myself. I want to see good golf. I want to see birdies. I want to see really good golf. And if it takes a little bit longer, I'm not upset by that. I really am not. If it's a 6.5-hour round, the players should be pissed off. They should be upset. Me, the viewer, I just want to see good golf. Now, when you transition from the professional level and go to the recreational level, this is where I think courses, whether it's public, private, doesn't matter, they need to teach expectations. What do you mean, Jeff? Like, what are you talking about? Teach expectations. I think that it's important that when people come in to play, that it is very clearly posted and also stated by the person that's accepting payment and getting everyone started that the round of golf is expected to be 4 hours or 4.5 hours, whatever the case is. Be upfront. Gentlemen, you guys have the 10:10 tee time on this Saturday. Course is crowded, just so you know, but we still expect this round of golf to be anywhere between 4 and 4.5 hours. We're going to keep you posted. There's going to be a marshal coming around. Play fast. Keep pace. That's all they have to say. You're letting that person know when they are paying, when they're checking in, that this is the expectation at this course. So you got to keep up. Now, I can speak for multiple courses in my area that when you go to the first tee, it says there's a sign, a round of golf on this course is expected to be 4 hours in length. Now, throughout the rest of the course, there's other courses that do this as well. Like I mentioned, they actually have other signs that say you should be this far into this. This is, let's say you're playing 6 holes. At the 7th tee, you should have taken, it should be an hour and a half at this point, something like that. And it gives you a reminder that I got to keep pace. I have to make sure that we're not lagging behind. I think that that's important, number one. I think having marshals out there on every course is a really good thing for golf courses. Make sure that people see these marshals not as they're trying to get you, but keeping pace. And the one thing that I think marshals do a great job with is if there is one group that's holding up a whole lot of groups behind them, is to say to that group, hey, have you ever thought about letting them play through? They've been waiting on the last few tee boxes. I've been kind of keeping tabs on the group. And if they say like, well, no, I haven't thought about that, then the marshal has to step in and say, I think you should let them play through, because ultimately we're having some issues. You either speed up or let these people go through so that we can get the pace of play back to where it should be. And then remind them that this is the expectation at this course. I think that recreationally, the amount of time spent on the golf course is the biggest problem. And I think a lot of it is that a lot of people just don't know what the expectations are. Some people, this is their outlet, it's their release, where they want to go, where they don't have to deal with any type of deadline. And I don't think anyone wants to be rushed through a round of golf. You shouldn't have to be rushed to just keep pace. You hear people use terms like ready golf, like be ready. And I always say, and this is something I was taught as a young age because my dad taught my brother and me when we were young. If you're driving in a golf cart, you should never be waiting in a cart. You should never be waiting in the cart while another person plays if your ball is still in play and you haven't hit your second shot or your drive. In other words, drop them off with their club, go to your ball, and then go back and pick them up. Playing ready golf and being ready when it's your turn. And to be honest with you, ready golf also means you don't have to go by the honor system. The honor system is that whoever is furthest away from the hole plays first. Now, if you're around the green or you're putting, that's fine. That makes sense. But if you're someone that is struggling on a hole and maybe you've duffed a couple shots and you put one in the bunker and your other playing partners are up on the green and you're getting your wedge out for the hit out of the bunker and your putter, they should be, hey, just go ahead and go, guys. Just go ahead and putt. I'm okay. I'm going to play out of the bunker. That's ready golf. But if they're standing there and just waiting, and they're waiting, and you get in the bunker, and maybe you leave it in the bunker, and they're still waiting, that also takes up a ton of time. And so from the PGA Tour level, you think about the professional game, could they speed things up? They could. They could. I don't think it has to be a banning aim point or anything like that. But I think just letting players know that there's an expectation that you're going to play in a certain amount of time. And if you don't, you're going to be penalized for it. And likewise, recreationally, I think letting the expectations be very clearly posted. I know my country club where I belong on the website, in the pro shop, on the first tee, they have signage. It says your expectation is to play this course in 4 hours. And I don't think they have enough of the martial presence on my golf course, but people typically play at a ready pace, and that's just the way that it is. So is there an answer? I think there is an answer, but I don't think that it's as clear cut as, recreationally having just a marshal there. I think it's just reminding people that you just need to keep up, play ready golf. And I always go back to what my dad said at a young age when I was playing. He said, look, I don't care if you're bad, just play bad fast. And that's really what it boils down to. All right, so let's transition now into the latest news. And I mentioned Matt Fitzpatrick, who was very open and vocal about he was very disgruntled by the pace of play on Sunday, but he ends up winning one-shot victory. He had a huge birdie putt on 17, I believe, to win the Valspar Championship. It's his third win, and he's 31 years old, so he's still a relatively younger golfer. It's his third win. Good for him. I mentioned this already. He's playing good golf, finished second in the Players 2 weeks ago. Valspar wins it last week, really hitting good form heading into the Masters in a couple weeks, so good for him. Obviously, I think it's also important to mention that we had talked about this before, the anchoring of the putter. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I mentioned how Akshay, he was really crushing. People were saying he's cheating. He actually went on the Foreplay podcast, which is a part of Barstool Sports, and he kind of gave his own personal opinion and said, look, he said, I'm not built like Adam Scott or Lucas Glover, who also used the broomstick putter. He said, you just can't see it. He goes, I'm tempted to go out and play shirtless so people can see that there's 3 or 4 inches away from my chest and the putter handle. And he even brought up how Jordan Spieth said that the putter should be the shortest club in your bag. He said, I don't care if it's shorter. I'm still going to use the same style and I'm going to bend over further. He said, but I'm not anchoring the putter. Pretty important to note that he's coming out publicly and saying, listen, this is not what you think it looks like. Now, Akshay's kind of on my crap list right now, and I'll talk about that in the press podcast after he withdrew suddenly from the Valspar Championship last weekend. Nonetheless, that's neither here nor there. All right, so we're getting ready for the Masters. The Masters golf tournament is always a blast. I absolutely love it. And it's one of those where you see who's in the tournament and who isn't. And I think that it's important to note that anyone that, in case you didn't know, anyone that's ever won the Masters, they are automatically guaranteed to be in the field for as long as they're able to golf. So let's take a look at who are some of the who are in the Masters field already. They've already solidified their spot, who are not Masters champions. So Ludwig Oberg, Brian Campbell, Patrick Cantlay, Wyndham Clark, Corey Connors, Jason Day, Bryson DeChambeau, Nico Echevarria, Harris English, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ethan Fang, who's an amateur, Tommy Fleetwood, Ryan Fox, Ryan Garrard, Chris Gotterup, Max Grazerman, Ben Griffin, Harry Hall, Brian Harmon, Tyrell Hatton will be there. That's good to see that. I love seeing him back on the PGA Tour, even if it's a major. Russell Henley, Jackson Harrington, another amateur. Brandon Holtz is another amateur. Rasmus Højgaard, Max Homa, Victor. How did Max Homa get into the Masters field? I guess maybe he had a top 5 finish. I don't know. Victor Hovland, Sunjay M, Casey Jarvis, Dustin Johnson. I'm sorry, he won. There's a bunch of other good players here. Siwoo Kim, Michael Kim, Kurt Kitayama, Brooks Koepka, Minwoo Lee, Shane Lowry, Robert McIntyre, Hideki Matsuyama won. It's interesting, though, when I look at some of these players, like Maverick McNeely got in, Morikawa's in because he won already, Alex Noren, Andrew Novak. Some of these greats are going to be coming back and playing. Freddie Couples always plays. I believe that we have Jose Maria Olazabal will be playing. The biggest name, though, and he's obviously a past champion, is Tiger Woods going to play. Is he going to play? I don't know. He's on the list. He's on the list that he's going to play. I'll believe it when I see it. This guy can't even play in the TGL. His Jupiter Golf Links were in the championship, and he couldn't even swing a club or didn't want to swing a club in a simulator. But there's some big names coming up, and we'll talk about this getting closer. Big name players who are not in the field for the Masters as of right now. They need to, for whatever reason, maybe they need to have a top 5 finish. Maybe they need to win a couple tournaments. Like right now, the notables not yet qualified with 2 weeks to go. Ricky Fowler, Joaquin Niemann, Sahith Theegala, Billy Horschel, Will Zalatoris, Tony Finau, Tom Kim, Michael Thorne Bjornsson, and Ryo Hitsatsuni. Those players have not qualified, so there's actually a chance that we won't see those players in the Masters. It's going to be interesting. Speaking of the Masters, though, the Champions Dinner, the Masters Club Dinner, which will be held on April 7th in 2026. Hey, Rory McIlroy put out his menu. I was kind of disappointed. It looks great. It looks great. It's probably going to be fantastic. But at the same time, man, you take a look at the appetizers in case you didn't see this. Peach and ricotta flatbread, bacon wrapped dates, rock shrimp tempura, and grilled elk sliders. I mean, that sounds fantastic. The first course, yellowfin tuna carpaccio. Okay. Main course, Wagyu filet mignon or seared salmon. And the dessert is sticky toffee pudding. It sounds fantastic. In the wine listings that people have talked about how expensive these wines are. It's like over $5,000 for these bottles of wine. But still, where's the Irish food? Where's the bangers and mash? What's going on, Rory? Come on, man. I thought that we would have a little bit more local flavor, so to speak, from Northern Ireland. But I digress. That's the menu for a meal that I will never get to taste ever. All right. Did anyone else out there check out the Chasing Sunday that the NFL Films and the PGA Tour put out there? I thought that was tremendous. If you didn't catch it, go to the PGA Tour's YouTube channel, and it is following several players throughout the Players Championship. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm not going to say it's Akshay, Chris Gotterup. Who else did they follow? Ricky Fowler was another one, and I think Sunjay M. It was or Siwoo Kim. I can't remember which one. It was really, really well done. And I knew it was going to be well done because the NFL Films, for those that aren't NFL fans, they do tremendous work. And when I saw that it was going to be like the Hard Knocks type style, I knew it was going to be amazing. And it's funny because these golf people, the media members, like, I can't believe how the turnaround they had on this. The tournament ends on Sunday and it's being put out in its final form on Tuesday. These people are used to working at a very quick turnaround. When you think about the Hard Knocks NFL series, which takes place in training camp, they are having to put out the episodes weekly that has the most up-to-date information about players that were released, players that were injured, coaches, all that stuff. It was really, really well done. It was really well done. And there's a couple moments that really stand out to me. There was the moment where Jordan Spieth, who was playing with Ricky Fowler, they're walking down the fairway together. And of course, Ricky Fowler is mic'd up. So you're picking up the whole conversation. They're talking about spin rates with the mini driver. Just fascinating. Then you had the caddy player relationship and the conversations that you heard there. Akshay was having to be calmed down a bunch by Joe Griner, his caddy, and Joe Griner's like, "Look, give yourself some leniency. Like, this is a tough golf course." I thought it was really interesting when Colin Morikawa had to withdraw because he was playing with Ludwig Oberg and I believe it was Siwoo Kim, who was, or whichever one was being followed by the Chasing Sunday group. Really awesome. I hope they continue to do this type of stuff. I hope they choose other tournaments. It would be great for the Masters, but I know the Masters would never give them permission and that access. All right, let's finish this up. This upcoming week, the Texas Children's Houston Open is up next at Memorial Park. We'll be doing a press podcast tomorrow. Keep in mind, folks, keep in mind, sometimes there used to be a time when these fields for a tournament like the Valspar, the last tournament in the Florida Swing, and now they're going to Texas for a couple weeks, that these fields would be just awful and you wouldn't have any good players playing in these fields. But now these are pretty good fields. Scotty Scheffler is going to be playing in the Texas Children's Houston Open next week, but you got some other really big names in the field as well. Whether you're talking about Siwoo Kim, who won it last year, you've got Wyndham Clark, you've got Lucas Glover, you've got Ricky Fowler, who's obviously trying to punch his ticket to the Masters. Jake Knapp is scheduled to be there. Minwoo Lee, I think Minwoo Lee won it last year. Just really good golfers. Adam Scott, Neil Shipley, Alex Smalley, Sahith Theegala's trying to punch his ticket, as we talked about him. You're talking about Will Zalatoris is trying to get into the Masters field. This is a good field. It really is a good field. I'm glad to see that these tournaments are they're not just turning into like, we're not going to play until the Masters. These players are getting into these fields because it's not only a good test of golf, but it's also a good way to get them ready for those majors. So we'll be back tomorrow with the press podcast. I was really down on my picks after day one and day two. Had a little bit of a resurgence. Got fortunate there at the end. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I'll give you my picks for the Texas Children's Houston Open for this upcoming week as we get geared up, trying to hit a streak again for the Masters tournament. That's always a big weekend for us. Make sure you check out all that. Oh, no, I almost forgot to mention, I did go to the driving range, took my son. We hit a large bucket. I'm doing a series right now that I'm going to start. I basically am trying to figure out, can AI fix my golf swing? And so what did I do is using Google Gemini, which you can use that in your Google app or on a web browser. I basically said, can you fix my golf swing? Here's the issue that I'm having. And they gave me some things to practice and gave me some things to work on to eliminate the hook in my swing. I'm a right-handed golfer, so it's a hard right to left. And I went to the range, and I got to be honest, maybe it was part me, but also part some of the ideas that were given to me. They kind of worked. And I still have work to do, still plenty of work to do, but I was very encouraged by getting out there. I haven't swung a club hitting a real golf ball since late last September, maybe early October. So that's how long it's been. I mean, we're almost out of March here, folks. And so I took a long layoff and I studied and I thought, okay, let's see if AI can fix my swing. I don't like it. AI scares the bejesus out of me. But nonetheless, if it can fix my swing, I can't say that I'd be upset. So we'll keep tabs on that as I get ready for the first time going out and playing, and I'll keep you up to date. But that's it. I'll be back tomorrow with the press podcast. We'll have 3 shows for you this week. The golf mixtape will be back on Thursday. next week. Already have a 2-man scramble lined up. Exciting times, good stuff. If you missed anything, go back and check it out. Nothing is really time sensitive, but he finishes up. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you tomorrow.